banging. Tony, thank you so much for taking the time to speak with me. It is, of course, an absolute pleasure. So first things first, nice and easy. How the bloody hell are you doing at the moment?
Oh, I'm doing amazing, man. We're about to head off on the road, and I've been itching to get back on the road since December. So I'm just looking forward to it and being back on the stage with my brothers and doing my thing, you know.
You said it. I've got you a mere 2 days from the start of you being on the road for this mammoth tour with Orbit Culture. You start on March 6th in Glasgow, ending March 25th in Warsaw. 12
Yep.
shows in 20 bloody days. Just talk to me about your mind frame regarding this mammoth undertaking.
I think it's just not trying to go too full on and reserving my energy and making sure that, you know, I'm only human like the rest of us are in this world, and I've got to reserve myself for every show. It's going to be tough, but we'll get through it. You know, we'll get
Does
through
it
it. It's exciting.
does it sort of change does it change your mind frame having it start in the UK, getting all them out of the way before heading over to Europe?
It's a weird one because the last tour we started off in Europe and then ended in the UK, which was quite like convenient for us.
Hmm.
I must admit, but it's nice. You know, it doesn't matter what way we do it. I'm finishing on my birthday, which is pretty cool. So I've got my birthday in Poland. So you know, we'll have a few drinks and a good old celebration. But yeah, it doesn't really matter what way around it is. You know, we just love playing music. I love traveling as well. So it'll be a fun little diversion back to the UK afterwards. So yeah, it's all fun and games.
What's your relationship like with Orbit Culture? I don't mean necessarily on a personal level, but I mean in regards to the music they make and what they've done in recent times.
Oh, I think, you know, with Orbit Culture, they have always kind of stuck to their guns. They haven't changed their sound too much. They do try different things, but it's within the confines of like very kind of classic metal, and I really like that. They've got a good image, just everything about them is so like well put together, and that's why they've been like the talk of the town in the scene at the moment. And as you could tell, like even before we were announced on the bill, they'd already sold out most of the tour. You know, the hype is real about this band, so don't sleep on it and get down to a show.
Oh yeah, I cannot believe I'm in London. And I cannot believe it's the underworld. Like I almost thought at one stage, this has got to have a venue upgrade. This has got to, right? And it just hasn't
Yeah.
happened. So it's going to be chaos
Yeah.
there.
100%. It's going to go off, and as you know, with the underworld, you know, there's going to be pits, there's going to be a stage diving. I'm sure, you know, that it's going to be a really energetic tour for ourselves and Orbit Culture. So really looking forward to it. As both about like as we go, we try and bring in the energy, and we know Orbit Culture do as well. So it's going to be a freaking energetic tour, and I can't honestly. I've said it like a million times already, but I just can't wait. So I cannot wait.
It comes through, man. And last time we spoke, it was 2022. You had just come off the stage at
Yep.
Bloodstock, of all places. And I thought you were doing phenomenally well then, but it's been a constant upward swing for Defects. So I wanted to ask you, have you had any opportunities to kind of sit back, take a step back, and sort of take in the success you've had up to this point?
You know what? It's a tough one, like because when you're in the moment, you're always looking at your next goal, and it is really hard sometimes to take that step back. But yeah, like from December, you know, after signing to Mascot and United Talent Agency and Raw Power all within that year, finally getting that out the way was the first time I had really taken a step back and looked at what we'd accomplished in such a short space of time, and it was kind of like imposter syndrome, like, do I deserve this, you know? It was an unreal feeling to kind of, yeah, look at it all, you know, what we had done, and then doing the Of Mice and Men run was just the icing on the cake for that year. So yeah, now looking at it, it's seeing like, wow, this has happened in such a short space of time, and I'm just really appreciative, man. Like I'm just so happy to be here and be able to work hard in an area where we've got the best team behind us, and they see the vision we do. That's all I can ask for.
Oh yeah, no, I completely understand that. Records, incredible label as well. And 2024, it's looking like one hell of a year for you, not just because of the Orbit Culture Tour, but because you're also playing a number of festivals this year, including Download in the
Hell yeah.
UK. And very importantly, you're releasing an album. Modern
We are.
Era. Yes, Modern Era, out May 24th via Mascot Records. So how does it feel to be slowly but ever closer getting to that release date, letting it out into the world?
You know what? It's a bit overwhelming, to be honest, because we started writing this album back in 2019. So it's been like a journey, and a lot's changed since then. I'm so much older now, and a lot has happened. We went through COVID, and just, you know what I mean? Just so much time has passed since the beginning of writing the record to now. It's kind of like I'm going to be sad when that chapter ends. Obviously, I'm excited for the next album and everything like that, but I think this has been such a roller coaster of like what we've tried to achieve that it will be sad when the chapter finally closes. But I'm just looking forward to seeing what people think, and seeing what songs that people resonate with the most.
Mm.
That I can't wait to finally get the whole lot out there, because there's a lot more on the record that it's you're gonna see Defects in a different light. So I can't wait to get it all out there.
It can be a pretty dry period anyway when you've got to release an album. It isn't always the most fun thing in the world when you've got to drip feed content and you've got to promote it and you've got to do all of this work as you slowly edge towards the release date. Have you been able to make it a fun experience for yourself?
Yeah, I think getting on board with Mascot, they see the same vision we do, so we've been working alongside those guys and our management, of course, as well. So it has been a good process. They've been on the same wavelength as us. With maybe it was slightly different because we originally had a different idea, I think, of what songs we wanted to release. But I'm very glad we've taken the path we have. So it's been a cool process, and it's been cool to see another idea from someone else's perspective. So it's been a really cool process, and yeah, there's a lot of work involved, but it's enjoyable when you're a step closer to your goal. So yeah, it's not been strenuous.
You mentioned the difference of opinions in regarding to what to release. Was it just that, a difference of opinion? No arguments, no like, oh, we really want this or anything like that?
No, it's for the first time, when it was within the confines of five people, we made a decision based on what we liked. But you have to think of the bigger picture, so you have a conversation, and then yeah, you might be given a different insight, and it's always good to have that, because at the end of the day, they are outside of the band in terms of writing, so they're going to listen to what you've given them at face value, instead of like the whole process of why you've chosen it, what it means to you. You know what I mean? So it was a good, like, different perspective on that. So that's why it all worked out. No arguments or anything like that. I think we appreciated the fact that there was a difference of opinion.
Absolutely. Damn
Yeah.
right. So Modern Era, it's a thing of immense beauty, an exceptionally personal release that is captivating, effective, smart, intense, and so much more. It is a staggering example of who you are and what you stand for, and a culmination of years of hard work. I personally hope you are very proud of what you have done here. So I ask, are you?
100%. This has to be the most personal body of work that I've ever personally released. I know with my guitar player Luke, he's exactly the same. It's the most personal. That in terms of the writing, it's been the most thought out work we've ever done. Individually and as part of this band. So yeah, no, I'm immensely proud of this, and it is something that, like I said, is going to be overwhelming when it gets over the finish line. And we hope that we can continue to build upon this sound and this kind of vibe, because not only have we made music that we love, we've
Mm.
managed to capture memories in a bottle, being the songs, and these songs can transport us to a place and time, and I think that's quite special.
It is very, very special. But take me back if you can, because bear in mind we have to go back a few years here, to what
Yeah.
your initial vision might have looked like. At its earliest point of creation, did you know exactly what you wanted to do and how you wanted to do it?
I don't think there's a set plan in mind. I think, as being a musician goes, you always strive to want to do well in your career, or you want to make something that sounds cool. But obviously, music is subjective and it's subjective to you. So the first things first, you're making music that you are proud of making. You love to listen to that music, and that's where it all kind of starts from. And then when you get excited over the music, everything else follows.
Hmm.
The business mentality follows, and oh, I want to try and play these shows, and I want to try and look like this, or have this kind of like artwork, or all that kind of comes afterwards. It's not like a cohesion of different things at the start. It is mainly just the music and the love for music. And then when you find the right members, then it's that kind of inner child excitement, I think, when you're like, oh my God, I've made something like really cool here. It's just about the art form primarily, first and foremost.
What about when it came to what the album itself, talking about modern era, your vision for that at this earliest point?
Yeah.
Did you have a clear one at the start?
Yeah, I think, well, I mean, End of Days was like, that's as soon as we had written that song, the title Modern Era just kind of, in a way, just kind of came out like naturally. When we was writing like individual songs, all these
Hmm.
songs touch base on real life events, or like uh, things that happen in the real world. Okay. So Modern Era just seemed to stick like instantly. It wasn't something that we really had to like search deep to find. And then from that, within within a good year of writing, we'd already had like half the album done, and then by that point, we were playing shows. So it was just like it was crazy, it was very seamless in a way, very
Yeah.
organic. Yeah, and I mean, yeah, I mean, we some of these songs were written during COVID as well, so it was like it just all came together with the free time that we had, and the excitement that we had. It was so seamless.
That's, I mean, it's fantastic to hear that, because when you're focusing on personal and bigger issues that exist in the world, day by day things change, life changes. There are so many factors that can affect thing. Did you have any moments that you can particularly point at that where an idea did get transformed because of circumstances around you?
I think lockdown was a big one. Yeah, lockdown was going to start off as a song about paranoia, and then over the course of a couple of months and the height of COVID, there was a lot of frustration between myself and everyone around me. I mean, everyone had really gone through the mill because of COVID, so it naturally became something I wanted to talk about,
Mm.
and then thus lockdown was born. And yeah, it's just stuff like that, really. It was just through real world situations it inspired me, like Broken Bloodlines, for instance, was going to be a completely different song. It had a completely different chorus, and then because of like real life events, it inspired me to write a chorus. We had that song, and it wasn't supposed to be on the album. We had that song in the bank for a good couple of years, and then all of a sudden, the right subject matter arose, and it became Broken Bloodlines. So it's crazy how things work out, and how real world situations can inspire and change a song completely.
Well, yeah, particularly as things stand in the modern era, you only have to open your window and there's something. Turn on the TV day by day and there's something. Do you ever find that aspect overwhelming when it comes from an artistic point of view?
I think it's not overwhelming as such. I do, see a lot of things that happen, and what I try to do is capture that in real time. I always try and write about things that matter, not just to me, but to a vast majority of people. I think that's the pinnacle of an art form, really, is to write about things that really matter and can resonate with people. That's my approach, anyway.
Did you always know quite, or at least early on, that you wanted to kind of use the album as the way to deal with some of, the themes behind it, childhood trauma, and did it turn out being quite an effective tool?
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, anyway, even before this album, like in my, other projects that I've been involved in, every time I'd written a song, like, I started writing at the age of 10.
Mm.
And it was always a way to vent as such, to get me through either situational events, or it was a way to talk about things. So it naturally like came to be, um, because of the experience I'd had in writing before. And yeah, I've always made it either personal, and it was this time was the most personal because I'd never really written about those past traumas, and dealing with that. So for me, this is like a really like good way of getting it off my chest finally once and for all. And it kind of gives people a bit of an insight as well as to, where I've come from. And, it's just, yeah, it's wearing my heart on my sleeve effectively, but doing it in a way that also is like a therapy for me.
It's an incredible thing to be able to do that because it's not easy for many, many people. Did you have any fears or doubts about expressing yourself in such a way? Because, inevitably, for example, you're going to end up playing a lot of these songs live. Detachment becomes almost impossible.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's a tough one. Like for example, Echo Chamber, I already know that is going to be a relatively hard one to play live, but it's important that I do that. I think it can resonate with a lot of people, and yeah, it is a tough one. It is at my expense in a way, and but luckily we live in a day and age where it's more accepted to be, be expressionate about, the things that matter, and like say I'm not okay, and like, so coming forward with these kind of songs is more respected nowadays. It's not. I hope that people don't look at it and go, "That's a weakness." I'm
Mhm.
sure in today's world we don't look at expression and trauma and venting like that as weakness.
Damn right. I would hope. I hope we don't either. I agree with you. I think we've come a long bloody way in that regard. So I don't think that's anything to be concerned about. And I must add as well, lyrically, the writing on this album is incredible. From End of Days to Another Heart to Bleed to Echo Chamber and the title track to Goliath. There isn't a single track that doesn't have lyrical content that I found fascinating to read. So talk to me about some of the challenges that came with the lyrical content.
I think it was trying to hit some of the things at face value. Trying to give an example here, like with Echo Chamber, when it's like the middle section, it's basically like me directly speaking to someone in my family and saying goodbye for what will be the last time I ever talk about that person. That person has, have been on the forefront of a lot of lyrical content that I've written about over the years, and it's finally a way of saying goodbye. So that was a big one to me. And sometimes your lyrics don't, it doesn't come all at once. You have to really think of like the way to say things, and sometimes you'll write something down and it'll be like what you want to say, but it's just not the right wording. And sometimes you have to be patient and go over lyrics again and again to really portray the message, you know. Um, Gone to Waste was a lucky one. Like I guess that was because I was already in that state of mind. I was very, very low, and that was during COVID as well. And the lyrics just kind of came out like, I think due to having that experience of writing, it's never been a point of like, oh, I'm stuck. Or, I always it's like if I don't have anything to say that day, that's fine. But tomorrow or the next day, I might have something to say to put on that page to finish that song. That's how I see it. Yeah.
Is it fair to say that the shadow of COVID does hang somewhat over the album as a whole?
I definitely think it's it's an inspiration from it, and it definitely gave a bit of fuel there for sure.
Hmm.
Because we all were stuck in limbo.
Hmm.
I was in my old band. Like before that, I was touring with Iron Maiden. I'd just come off that tour, and then COVID hit, and then it was nothing for 2 years, and I had to deal with going from being so busy to just having nothing, and the fear of not being able to do that again. So there was a lot of frustration that kind of fueled the album, yeah, for sure. So you're correct in saying that, yeah, from my part anyway.
Yeah, it's really interesting at this stage because ultimately we're years on from the days of lockdown and so on. It almost starts to feel like a dream, but its effects are still resonating today, not just on a personal level, but on a wider scale as well. Obviously, you mentioned the track Lockdown previously, um, and I feel like it's important still to kind of sometimes talk about it, particularly if it's inspired a track or it's inspired lyrics and so on, just so
Yeah,
that aspect never gets forgotten. Obviously, lockdown,
exactly.
just reading the lyrics were very frustrating, was a very frustrating experience for you. So can you give us all some insight into why lockdown was a particularly hard period for you?
Lockdown for me was hard when it became like you couldn't go out, or the only time you could go out was to do exercise. And
Mm,
with me being inside all the time and not being able to travel, and like not having a job, like doing what I love, that over time, when the goalposts were getting moved, it just caused more and more frustration. So it was having to get over, it was grief as well, it was grief of like, is this gonna be for 5 years? Like, how bad are things going to get before they get better? Nobody knew. And then I think it was what, 2022, where things kind of started to go back to normal.
mm.
So we just didn't know. It was the limbo that caused the frustration, and made me want to write about it and made me feel the way I did. And I'm sure for a lot of people there was frustration with how things were being run, how rules were being set, and there was a lot of, look, like, as we know, there was a lot of questions that we were all asking each other. And I won't go into details, it's awfully political, but we all had questions. We all
Mm.
wanted a resolution, an answer, right? But we had nothing until 2022. So it was really hard to deal with. Everyone was turning on each other of what the right thing to do was. That was a big
Mm.
thing. And there was a lot of friends that I knew that had different opinions of what they needed to do to protect people. Or do you see what I mean? I'm sure you had that as well. But it mixed different opinion throughout those years, and it just caused a lot of frustration. And that's
No,
what inspired that.
you wouldn't be alone, of course. Many other artists have been inspired in their own way to write about that particular period. I always find it fascinating to talk to people about it because my experience was is so wildly different to often the mass and general public. So it's always really interesting for me to kind of get that. And when I saw that track, I saw the title and I thought, okay. And then I read the lyrics and really, really got what you were feeling there. Because ultimately, as we said already, modern era overall is so very personal with so many relatable themes. So I kind of wanted to ask you then, what do you hope listeners take from the album as a whole?
I think it's to learn to live in the real world, and look at everything around you, and be appreciative for what you have, and what if you don't have these things, like, go get it. Like, don't sit there and dwell on things you don't have, and be positive, and, like, regardless of what we see in the modern era, always try to approach life with optimism and move forward. And this is the thing, even though the songs are very personal and they somewhat come across pessimistic in ways, look in hindsight at the optimism and go, right, that was then, this is now. And things can change. That's what I think, you can take from this.
I think that's really important. I think, as you said, on a face value, you could come away going, well, this is a depressing piece of music, isn't it? But ultimately, if you really, when you give it time and you spend more time with it, you do get an optimistic point of view, particularly as you let it sink in and really understand where it was coming from. Is it fair to say then that Defects as a whole is more optimistic these days than you were a few years ago, aside from obviously because of COVID
Oh,
and all that?
100%, 100%. Obviously times got tough, and I'm sure, as human nature goes, we approach things with pessimism occasionally, but it's to remember the good things, and to remember to just take life one step at a time and try to be as optimistic as possible, no matter how hard it is. And I know times are tough at the moment. I know it's hard for everybody out there, but it's just to remember to keep putting one foot forward and appreciating what you have.
Let off some steam as well. Come to one of these Orbit Culture shows, or if you're at one of the festivals you're going to be playing and whatever else you got planned for the rest of the year, just let off some steam with you guys there,
100%.
right?
That's why we do what we do. High energy shows. We're gonna, have some fun for all of you listening. We can't wait to see you there, and we are going to have a ball.
Have you I have to ask, have you settled yet on what the set list might look for your sets?
You have to come to the show to find out.
All right, finally, one more then. There's no such thing as perfection. In your own words, because I loved the quote, we're all defects in a way, but that makes us all unique. So,
Absolutely.
what does being defect mean to you?
It is about embracing your imperfections, right? To be you is to be imperfect, because if everyone strived for perfection, we'd all be the same, okay? It's about learning to be yourself, embrace the imperfections that make you you, because your imperfections could be someone's perfections. You just don't know. It's subjective, okay? So it's just about embracing who you are, right? Be defected, enjoy your life, stop trying to be something you're not, and just live your life. That's the best way to put it, and that's why I've stuck with that over the last couple of years. Embrace your defects.
Outstanding words. I couldn't agree more. And while perfection may not exist, you get mighty damn close with Modern Era, which is out on May 24th via Mascot Records, ahead of this tour, which I don't even need to wish you great success in it, because I know it is going to be stunningly successful. Tony, thank you so much for taking the time to do this. I really appreciate it.
You're most welcome, and thank you very much for having me.
Thank you very much for watching. If you'd like to see more content like this, please consider hitting the subscribe button. It is gratefully appreciated. You can find us over at gbhbl.com, our full website, where reviews, news, and so much more goes up daily. We're also on all social media platforms: Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Threads, at GBHBL. Just search for GBHBL and you will find us out there. We also have merchandise on sale. You can access the shop via the website.